Okay. All right. So anyway, like I said, our first question, last season's club officer training, what worked well is we got a lot of people trained. About 11% total more than last year, even on online format. And I think that a big reason for a lot of us getting all of our officers trained was officer training online works well, at least from a people attendance perspective. So I'll just open the floor for discussion.
Yeah, I agree. I think having the, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that did work very well. I think it was because, I mean, how much more convenient can you get to do training from your own house?
True. Things that worked well.
Well, I think the fact that it's virtual worked really well, because, and then the fact that, what did surprise me was how popular the noon session was. And I thought that that was really good. I think the challenge there may be well, I know I have an idea of how to improve something, Tim, but
That's fine. And that's what we're getting to. We're just talking about work well, and then we're going to get to the improvement part, which I'll be
okay.
right about. Anybody else? Greg?
Yeah, sometimes it's just a little minor thing. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but I had trouble getting the script, so I had to ad lib. And all it was just making sure I clicked that little box that says not to maximize the window when somebody else shares the screen.
Yeah.
Things like that. And it wasn't a real big deal as it turned out, though. Otherwise.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and that you get that with familiarity with the product. And none of us before this started had done any club officer training online. Well, I hear what you're saying. Mark, any comments?
Nope. No, I think you nailed it. I mean, that really did go well. I mean, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. Actually, I think attendance went decently well. Making sure that we keep track of who was attending and who wasn't attending. I think having those records also was a win.
Yes, yeah, I'll get to that. That was a win, and I cannot tell you how much taking screenshots of those breakout rooms really saved me. We had one club officer training where almost no one, or like less than 50% of what we believed the attendees to be actually attended. They actually filled out the attendance sheets, and I had to really scramble to figure out. It took 5 hours to reconstruct that. So just as a heads up, when we create the one thing I learned the hard way is making sure that our both our registration sheet and the attendance Google Forms have things lined up in the correct way, so that when so I can just copy and paste them into the fancy club officer training thing that we have to make my life easier. Because like I said, when I had to call people that were trainers to find out who was in their trainings, and we didn't have all of the screenshots for that particular training. And that was a real mess. It was 5-6 hours of work, and I'd prefer not to do that again. So I think we still have people fill out attendance, but I want to also make sure that we fill out the, we take the screenshots just as a backup. Yes, Greg.
So I was wondering, do you want us to have the items in a certain order when we create our registration sheets? Would that be helpful?
No, I created all the registration forms last time, and I think that let me see. I'm trying to
No, I mean
remember.
for the Google thing, where
Yeah,
they,
wait a second. You guys created the registration forms. I created the
Feedback.
attendance and the feedback form.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll spell that out. And it's simply just that way when it formats into Google Sheet, it makes my life easier if I
Mm.
have to copy and paste stuff back and forth, which I've had to do in the past. So
Yeah.
I'll provide all that to you. It's not real, it's not a real challenging. It's not much different, but we'll figure that out. Okay, areas of improvement, starting with Mayor.
I want to actually say what worked out really well was the naming convention for the breakout rooms. I thought
Yes.
made it really easy to figure out where people should be sorted for the breakout rooms. And I think for me, I think for one of my trainings, I actually gave that as part of the pre-work or homework instructions. So when they started the training, a lot of them already knew how to rename themselves. So that made it go a lot faster.
And that's a really good point. And that I'm going to put that it worked well, but I want to put that needs to include that as an improvement so that we make sure everybody gets that.
The other thing that I realize is that we can send them messages in the waiting room to rename themselves, but they can't actually rename themselves until you actually admit them.
Yeah, that is some learning.
The thing that the one improvement that I really think we ought to do is when we train presidents. So the thing is, when you train presidents, VPEs, and secretaries, I think there should be a separate special session just for base camp. And what they need to know with base camp, because what ends up happening, I think, because I'm trying to figure out how to do pathways training, for new members, it gets confusing because if you have new officers and they're fairly new to pathways too, and then you start talking about base camp stuff, I think it kind of confuses. And I don't know if we have enough time to do that, but I think a separate session just for base camp managers, might be worth it. And then for the actual training, it's just the pathways for.
I agree. And here's how I think that we do that. We do it as a webinar.
Yeah, perfect.
But you see, the part of it that you may or may not know, and this is why most of the stuff that you do in base camp is pretty basic. In other words, most of the reports in my experience aren't really that helpful. And here's part of the reason why. If you're someone that belongs to more than one club, and for example, let's say Greg, who belongs to Opportunity Speakers in Daly City, if somebody's trying to look up his stuff on the one report that I think is pretty good, you just have to download all 5 levels. And he's set up in pathways at Opportunity Speakers, none of his stuff will show up.
Yeah, I know. You have to, or the other thing is you can't send someone a kudo if their home club is different than your home club.
Your home club. And,
you can't even find them.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of a tough thing, and, the more clubs it becomes, the more tougher it is. So.
Yeah, so I think that what is officer training? What are we trying to accomplish when we train our officers? Are we giving them leadership skills? Are we giving them, an opportunity to network? Because, pathways and base camp could just take up all of the training, actually.
Correct.
And you'll never go into like the nuances of how to schedule, mentoring, that kind of stuff. So that's why I think if there's any way we could break out a separate pathways training, that would be my recommendation.
So I think we can do that via a webinar. I don't think that we can require certain roles to attend longer training than the others. So I think that we make sure that we advertise, hey, we've put this webinar together, and these are some of the things that you'll get from that. And then that, because in Basecamp Manager, unless you're the VPE, most of the stuff you do is very, very simple. Go into Basecamp Manager, look at pending requests, and you're approving pathways levels. You're not going in, and the only other potential thing that I think you would really use that for is if you wanted to print out certificates for people. And you can go in as the VPE president or secretary and do that. Hey, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Just to give you a heads up, you're muted, but we wanted to let you know we're recording to make sure you're aware of that. So Rizwana can't make it, and that's the purpose. So.
I won't say anything.
Oh, sure you will. What we've talked about so far, everyone, just give me a minute, is we talked about what went well with club officer training, and basically Mayor's noontime training, very popular. Greg talked about some minor issues with script and being in full, full screen. We talked about the naming convention and that pre-work, putting that in pre-work is a great idea. And that's what I put down for something for all of us to learn from, is if we can tell people to rename themselves prior to, that may help us.
I did that. I did in my email, so I'm not sure how effective that was, but I usually send it like, please do this.
Sure.
Hard to measure. I also have a question. I don't know if you discovered it already or not. I'm always curious on the second training cycle, November through February, who are the people who would want to be trained in November, December? It's like, because, yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they extended it to November because, and kind of the way I'm looking at this is because it's club officer training, most of, December, at least the last week or two, probably the last couple of weeks of November will be pretty dead. And probably the last 2 weeks of December as well. You might get the first 2 weeks of each of those, and then January and February. Strategically, I thought it was wise to put a TLI at the very beginning it's like the second week of November, so we can catch people early. And also, I want to have one at the tail end of February so that we can catch people there. That way we can try and maximize our club officer training for people. And then in the middle, we'll have our division director stuff, of course.
Yeah, but who would get trained in November? So I'm thinking the officers that got elected today now, right? They got trained, or they sort of, because new officers not going to know that they're new officers at least by mid-December, the earliest they might know, right? So the only people who would train are the people who are officers now, but that would be the end of their term for many of them.
Yes, that would be right. I think you make a good Alex. That would be the clubs that are annual. So
annual clubs, it'll be the same people that were trained the first time. What my point is why do you go to training the second time? Well, my view is now you've got some actual experience if you've been a new officer, and now you know the questions to ask better than when you're brand new, starting out. And now you're going to have more questions to ask, and that's where the experienced people can really help you.
Okay, and annual clubs. Okay, makes sense.
Yes. Now we have I think it's about, I don't know, probably 30 or 40, I think, that are semi-annual. I'll go double check that just to be sure. And those clubs, you'll want to send the incoming officers. So they may have not had that election in November. They may not have it until December. and that may be part of the lesson there, is we want to make sure that we get the people who are going to be incoming officers for that number of clubs. And what we can do there is I certainly can give everybody a list of the semi-annual clubs in their divisions, or we can just send an email to those clubs directly, and letting you know what we're sending. It's going to be a pretty simple one. Hey, your club is semi-annual. We just want to recommend that you attend officer training.
So would it make sense, Tim, would it make sense to have like a training for new club officers and then a training for experienced club officers?
I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. If you get new club officers, the only people who will be there are new officers. Now, most of our trainers are very good and very experienced, but there's value in having that mix so that the trainer is not doing all the talking. And having someone that's maybe been a VP or a treasurer or something before, mixing with the new folks is, I think, there's some value there. But yeah, let me take a look, and I'll get that. That's something for me to come up with, is number of semi-annual clubs, and I'll report back to you via email.
I think it's on the membership report, whether it's
Probably is, but yeah, but I mean, understanding the total number is also helpful. So it jogs my memory, and then I let you know as overall what that looks like. Other areas of improvement. So that's pretty much most of what we've said. Oh, one other thing, Alex, is you can send messages into the waiting room, but the people in the waiting room can't rename themselves until you admit them. So that's something that we learned. Other areas of improvement. Go ahead.
But back to a previous topic briefly, just one nuance. What I did in the last couple of trainings was I sent out a meeting invitation and included the renaming instructions in the meeting invitation. And either my tech chairs and tech assistants were just on it, or people were also renaming themselves. So I think that is maybe something that's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and that will be part of what I put together. So I'm going to write up all this at the end of the meeting and send what we discussed so that we're all clear. And then, of course, that's subject to modification in case I miss something.
So Tim, I'm okay with you creating the forms for the feedback and attendance, but what my request is to actually give us view access so we don't have to wait to get an email from you.
I did in many of the cases, and that may have been something I did more towards the latter part than the earlier part, and that's a really good point. So yeah, so what I'll do is give you view access. Okay, and that's great.
And then I'm sorry, I'm kind of not clear. Are we also making our own registration form, or are you going to do that?
I don't have a problem with making it. Well, actually, I'm not supposed to make the registration forms.
Okay.
But what I would ask is I'll give you the fields in order that I need.
Okay.
And the reason is, and so it will be modified a little bit. The reason is that, sometimes I had to copy and paste stuff over, and if I've got it in the order I need it, that's a little more helpful. So, because like I said, 5 hours working on somebody's training was not fun.
no.
All right. So so then what we should do is I'll make sure all of you have view access right from the beginning for your club officer training for attendance and feedback, so you can just grab it right away. And you'll do the same, give me view access for all of the registration stuff.
So what happens when you get a last minute trainer dropout? and we can't change the form. I think that happened to Mark, right? Somebody
Yeah.
else trained and I stepped in at the
Oh,
last.
wow.
I can usually, it depends. If it's really, really last minute, what we'll do is leave the form the same, and then I'll go in and change the fields on the Google Sheet.
Yeah, it's not that. It's the people that fill out the form get confused.
I understand.
Oh, because
I mean, I try
I
to
think
change
I
it as
think in one of
quickly.
my I think in one of my trainings there was a replacement, and then I told them to just put the officer name, but then they still got confused.
Okay.
So maybe just consider that you give us edit access on the feedback form, and then take it away the day of the training, just to confirm all the trainers are good, or just be on standby in case there's a last minute trainer change.
So maybe what we do there is, if there is a last minute change, let me know. You know, I mean, it does happen. If it's in a situation where I'm actually a trainer, then that is fine. I will be happy to give you edit access to fix that. I just, you know, I'm not so concerned about the form part. I'm much more concerned about the data, because, you know, one of the things that, you know, I thought we were pretty lucky at, actually, is reconstructing some of the stuff we had to reconstruct. And that's one of the things where I think screenshots of the training rooms by the tech chair are critical.
So then we don't take the screenshots ourselves if we're trainers
The
then.
tech chair does. Yeah.
I think an effective way is when they put their first and last name, it shows that up in the breakout room. Once everybody's been sent out to the breakout room, then they can just take a picture, and then everyone's name is listed like that. It's pretty easy at that point.
So let me go on. Any other areas for improvement?
I know one thing for me is that schedule them further apart. 5 days apart was too much.
Yeah, mine was 2 days apart.
Oh God, yeah, that's really bad.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting this time, because like I said, you're probably going to get the first couple of weeks in November, the first couple of weeks of December, and then everything else will be in January and February. At least I think that would be a reasonable way of looking at it.
Are you expecting us to do 2 trainings each? And because that's a lot of spread time, right?
Yeah, well, what do you mean when you say 2 total trainings per division director?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
we did.
like we,
Or are you expecting
Yeah,
us more training?
I think that's reasonable. I mean, I know one time when I was a division director, I wound up doing 4 one season and 3 the other. But I don't think 2 is too much, unless you think you need to do more. And I think we can determine that basically by the numbers. I don't know. Thoughts?
oh, I think we can start with 2, and if we need to add more, we can do another one.
And the other thing I was wondering, is there a way to have the attendees automatically get the link when they register? Because I had 3 or 4 people who wanted to sign up literally in the last 10 minutes, and it would be okay to do that if they can get the link automatically, because I had to start setting up since I was going to host the event.
Greg?
There
Understand.
actually is a way. It's a little complicated, but it's doable once you have the link for the meeting. You can configure a Google form to either display the Zoom link for the meeting upon completion of the form. You could probably send an email also. I haven't done the latter.
Yeah, I think that would bring in a few more, because I
Well-
was taking registrants until, I don't know, 15 minutes before I was to start, and they were still coming in, you know, trickling in.
So Greg,
Yeah.
we're not going to display the link on a Google form necessarily.
Yeah,
I don't think that's helpful. And the reason that it's not helpful is because that's how you get people that are really Zoom bombers.
yeah.
Is
Yeah.
they can just, oh yeah, I registered, look, I can get in, now I can do whatever I want. And we've really been doing well not having that type of thing. And I'd like to keep it that way.
So
I don't,
that actually happened in one of my District 1 clubs. Is we had a Zoom bomber and they were putting swastikas and making offensive comments to members. It was terrible.
it was where?
It was in one of the clubs I go to in District 101, and they started texting swastikas and texted some profane things to
Mhm.
minority guests. And
Yeah. And we're trying to prevent that.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm good. So Greg, I don't think doing it on a Google form, and that's part of the reason I try and not send out the Zoom link. You know, usually 24 to 48 hours prior is plenty of notice. Certainly we want people to attend training. And maybe what we need to do is say, look, you know, you need to register. There's certainly nothing wrong with you assign, and you know, if people are contacting you, you know, maybe in your pre-work email or email that you send out to your division, make certain that, you know, people know they need to register longer than 15, you know, much more before, even an hour before.
Yeah, I was just wondering what difference it made, though, because if I'm able to process it, then the procedure is exactly the same. You know, I send
But
them
Greg,
the
but Greg,
email with the link and all that. Yeah.
your tech chair, you have to send your tech chair the list of registrants so they know what breakout room they have to go to as well, right? So
I think what he's talking about is a little different. I think what he's asking, Mayor, is he's saying he was getting people trying to get the Zoom link up to 15 minutes prior. They were registering then and trying to get in.
yeah, so that's what I mean. I closed my registration noon of the day of the training so that I had time to manipulate the data sheet. But then I
So
was still
what,
getting,
what do you do to manipulate it once you get it so that it's more convenient to, yeah?
well, I download it and give it to my tech chair so that they have a list of the people that are
Okay.
expected to show up
Okay.
in alphabetical order by first name.
Oh, okay.
So, but I think there is a way when someone registers that you can give them a message, but we don't want to do that, right? Because you're saying Zoom bombing.
Yeah, I'm really trying to avoid problem folks like that. So that's why, you know, there's a way where you can do it and it will send it back to them. The question is, I don't think it's, you know, something we want to do. But I think that, you know, 24 to 48 hours prior we send out the Zoom link, I think we're probably okay.
So, Mayor, when you had problems in that club in District 101, what was the procedure there of sending out the link?
They posted it on the Toastmasters.org website.
Oh, no, that's
Yeah,
not.
you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
post it anywhere. Yeah.
They posted it on the website. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That I was told not to do that, so we don't do that.
Bad idea.
Mhm.
Anyway, well, lesson learned there. Don't do that.
As far as Timothy, as far as your exercises were concerned, I think it worked out pretty well, except some of the participants just talked and they didn't have that little item that they were supposed to use. But otherwise, I think it went pretty well.
Well, we worked out a lot of the rough edges, mostly in Mayor's couple of trainings, to be candid with you. We're going to do something that's not quite as complicated this time. Yeah, we'll get into that. I'll send you an email and explain it. It's not nothing that requires objects. It just requires a little bit of talking. And I think that'll be much better. I just wanted to try something that was different.
Yeah.
We learned from it.
I actually thought for my last training, I had one of my area directors come with jokes, dad jokes, to help facilitate jokes. And I asked people to bring jokes because there's like 10 or 15 minutes when people are registering where we're renaming and things like that. And so it's not a problem in the evening sessions because, you know, Kalidas and Tim are talking and stuff. But in the noon sessions, it's a short amount of time to rename everybody, and then you have all this dead air. So I thought having a host to just sort of chat people up and welcome everybody was actually good for not having dead air.
Okay, so you're saying using a host mostly at noontime trainings?
Yeah. Or even evening trainings. I think we should just, you know how in every meeting the sergeant of arms is the host and welcomes everybody. I think we should have one person, whether it's a co-tech chair or whatever. Their whole job is just to welcome people and
Talk to them.
Yeah, we'll talk to them, give them instructions. You know,
I think that's great. That's a great idea. I also think it's not a bad idea if we can do it is to play some music. You know, the music doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be music. And I know there's several different things that I learned from a TLI where we can actually, Purple Planet, and there's some other websites where the music is free and royalty free. So anyway, just something to think about. All right. Any other comments in that regard? How about what can we do to better club officer training?
I mean, while Mark is chewing, one idea I had is if people know what to expect, it might be more interesting to them versus coming blank and learn everything on the spot. So maybe we can share some case studies or whatever we do this kind of work before, kind of a pre-read. It's like, hey, think about these scenarios. You will share your ideas. Then people will spend some time thinking, and then it might have more lasting learning impact versus they just thought about that during the meeting, and then the meeting didn't, they forgot about it.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Piggybacking off that idea, we could even have a question on the registration form about what is it that they specifically want to learn. So we could give that to the trainer so they have time to prep for making sure they cover that material. So it's relevant to the officers.
I like that idea.
I would phrase it maybe differently though, because I mean, maybe for November it's fine. We're gonna have experienced officers, actually fine. January, February, we might have new officers that actually don't know what they want to learn. But what we can ask them is like, what is the current biggest issue of struggle in the club? Like,
Sure.
what would you think the biggest struggle?
Well, we usually do that at the beginning. The trainer does that. However, I think it's a great idea. You don't want to say what's the biggest struggle in the club necessarily, because they may or may not want to share that. But maybe say, what is your biggest challenge in this role? And that may be that way, then it may lead to the other things, which is okay, but I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, that was something as a facilitator that I always did at the beginning. I asked them to introduce themselves, what's their club, and what they wanted to get out of the training. And that way, as a trainer, I could circle back. So I think it's a great idea to ask it ahead of time. However, I mean, frankly, I think the facilitators need to ask it during the training session as well.
I always
Because
ask
it,
the biggest challenge, biggest success, every single
Mhm.
training I've done.
Yep. So great idea.
Okay.
One other thing that we can do to raise the bar is we can make the training more interactive. I mean, we have the template, we have the agenda document,
Hmm.
we have all of these resources that people don't know are there. We can ask the facilitators to share some of those, their favorite resources, um, explicitly, like have that as part of the agenda to share your favorite online resources. So to prompt people to share d4tm.org, to share District 411,
Well,
because
I
even if we talk
agree.
about those things, we don't share them necessarily as
I
much.
agree with you that we, probably need to find some better ways to share some information. The challenge that I've had is a lot of times we'll put most of those links on the group handout that goes to all the officers, and it never gets used. I'd like to find more interactive ways as well. I don't believe last time I checked that we're able to do polling in breakout rooms. We can only do it in the main room.
Hmm.
So that would be something, but I think we need to start taking a look at maybe there are other products we could use. I think you can use Poll Anywhere. And if you share your screen, that may be a way to do something like that. Um, and that leads right into my next question, which is really a big part of this. How can we better deliver training on Zoom?
Hmm.
And
So
go
at
ahead.
my company for collaborative meetings, they use Jamboards. So people can type in information, it's shared across, and then it's actually all the ideas are captured. They do word clouds. They do have
Word
you
cloud, repeat that?
word clouds. So if you
Work
know
clouds, yeah.
Word
word
cloud.
clouds.
Oh.
The other thing that you could do is you may not be able to do polling on Zoom, but you can definitely set up a Google survey or Google questionnaire that people can fill out, and then it will automatically put it in pie charts or different charts if you want that kind of visual representation.
Well, I think you can use Pull Anywhere as long as you can share your screen. The thing that we need to think about, though, is I think if we decide to do that, I'm fine with it. But think about how you're going to train all of the trainers to use those tools too. I know what
Oh,
Jamboards is. I haven't used Work Clouds. I'll look at it, and I do know what Pull Everywhere is. Um, I
We use
think
Poll Everywhere
there's
and Tech, but is there a cost to it or is it free? I don't know.
what
My company.
Pull Everywhere. I think you can use it for free to a point. I don't think that it would be something we would have to necessarily pay for. I'll go check it out more, or Pull Anywhere. I'll check it out more thoroughly, after the meeting. So work clouds, is that something you said you use at work?
Yeah, it creates a little word cloud. Like, let's say, what do you think of what's your word for leadership? And everybody starts
Oh,
typing in
okay.
bigger. The ones that have the same words get bigger,
Mhm.
and then it creates a
Okay.
little word cloud.
So
Yeah, okay, got it.
if
I
I
thought you said
Google
work, so I was
it,
a little confused. So got it.
Where would you find that on the internet? Is there a certain website that
Or
you
we
use?
can just probably find it on a website. Yeah, that'd be my
Yeah,
guess.
Just
there's a whole,
Google.
yeah, you could just Google word cloud.
Okay.
There's a
I'll
bunch of
take a
free
look at
ones out there, actually.
So, yeah, what can we do? How can we use Zoom to better deliver training?
Well, I've used Canva. I used the Canva program to make like a billboard to start. I was a sergeant at arms trainer, and that worked out pretty well. I put it in the email, and then I scrolled the email for my presentation, and it worked out pretty well.
Okay. You use that in your training. What did you use it for? Just here's what we're going to talk about, or?
I used it for everything. I had pictures, and I also had the handout embedded in the email, so I could edit it and add, and you know, as we went
Can you
along.
send me that so I can at least take a look at it to make sure I understand?
Okay,
Thanks.
yeah, because then if I can edit that handout sheet, then if somebody asks the questions, I can write it down and then write the answer, right there
Okay.
during the training.
All right.
That worked out pretty well.
Interesting idea. Yeah, I'm open to anything. I think what we will have to do is think it through. I mean, we have Canva, got it. Does everybody know how to use it or any of these tools? And that's probably where I think you're going to have to do some train the trainer. And my guess is to make this work, what you're going to have to do is we would have to have a pretty short list of different tools, because we don't want people to be a club officer trainer have to learn how to use 5 or 6 different things.
Yeah.
Let's narrow it down to 1 or 2 and then train a group with that. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's doing your train the trainer program?
That will probably, that is still being discussed. I'm assuming I'll probably do
When are you
part of it, and that's part of what I have here on the agenda. I've been talking with a couple people about what we want to do, and part of that training is I downloaded the Train the Trainer module. And I don't think that, Toastmasters has not updated it in quite a while. And I'm not really comfortable just going with what they've got. I think we would have to develop some sort of a hybrid with that.
When are you, so if your training starts November, December, it's already the end of September.
Correct.
You don't have I don't mean to be a buzzkill, Tim. I think it's a great
So I'm
idea.
going to probably hold it in the middle of October.
Okay.
And
Right.
I may have to have a couple of sessions. And, there's a lot of stuff that has to be figured out there too, because, okay, how do I show people how to use whatever tools we decide on?
Do you have enough
No.
time, Tim,
I
to
don't
create
know.
this hybrid training? And
Well,
roll it
we're
out?
going to have to, I'm not going to go with the Train the Trainer that Toastmasters International has. It doesn't address big priorities. Zoom is a big priority. Using other tools is a big priority. So none of that's addressed in the Train the Trainer module that hasn't been updated in probably 15 or 20 years. And I don't think that.
You're preaching to the choir. I'm just,
okay, I agree.
I'm just a little worried about time for you, Tim, because you want to roll it out in basically 2 weeks, maybe 3, right? If
I can, that's why I'm having this meeting. So hopefully I can start working on it. I do have, strangely enough, a little bit of free time on a couple of weekends. So
oh, good. Okay.
maybe then I can put that together. I mean, certainly I wanted to have this meeting, and I'd like to have another, well, I don't know if we're going to, probably not next week, but I'm just saying, and then maybe have one more meeting as early as I could, probably, maybe the earliest would be like next weekend or the weekend after that, and discuss to finalize the different tools we decide to use. I'm not trying to make a dictatorial decision. I'm just saying we need to keep it. I think you're going to have to keep it pretty short because, like you said, we don't want, if we, for example, if we use something like Poll Anywhere, maybe the learning is we have pre-configured polls that we can use so that it's consistent for each of the different officers, trainers. And then all you have to do is find a way to import or export that to different accounts and make your life easier. I don't know.
When I ask you questions, it's not because I disagree with anything you're saying. It's because I'm trying to smooth out the bumps that I see. So one of the feedback that I
That's
got
fine.
from my or more experienced trainers is it's still not enough time. So
Okay.
give them the trainer, and then we ask them to do these additional tools. They're gonna probably have to redo the training that they've already done. Do you know what I mean? So most people that are training already have their own either modified training materials or something like that. So if we
Actually,
give them
most of, okay. I'm
yeah,
listening.
so and so well, I don't know. I mean, the trainers I've talked to, a lot of them also have their own materials that they augment whatever training the district gives them.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is that if we're going to ask them to do different tools and things like that, they may have to redo their training. So the
Well,
question
if
you
we're
want,
asking them, if we're asking to use some, we're trying to make it more interactive. That was the purpose of having them use something, use different tools, or how can we deliver training better on Zoom? If you're saying we can't do that, that's a discussion we should all have.
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I'm just saying that I think the experienced trainers have their own way of training that they're comfortable with. And so, and I think that experienced Toastmasters like to use new tools all the time. So I don't think that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that they'll probably want to rework their training.
They may. And yeah, so if we do that, if we do that, then we need to get really on figuring out what tools we want to use sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So right now we've heard word clouds, Jamboards. I think it's Poll Anywhere. And Greg brought up Canva. So I'll look into all of that. Yes, Mark?
So in addition, one way that the trainees can feel more connected to the district is if the district seeks their opinion. So if there are, for example, timely things that top 4 want to learn from our clubs, we can use good old-fashioned Zoom polling to gather feedback on those matters. And it can be constructive to, I mean, they'll feel like a part of the whole if you just ask them questions at the beginning, as even in mass as a group. It doesn't make the training more interactive, but it makes the club officer training session more interactive without imposing
So how
or
can you
encouraging
use
technology.
Zoom polling in breakout rooms?
It would be for questions you'd want to ask everybody. So this would be before sending people to
Okay.
breakout rooms.
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, that's certainly a good point. Maybe what we could do is we could talk about, or I talk about it with the other folks in the top 4, and maybe what we do is have 2-question poll at the beginning. I think if you do much more than that, you're probably, yeah, it may be an issue.
Right.
But I think if you do that and then show the results at the very beginning, that may be something that would help. But when it comes to doing it in breakout rooms,
Right, it
yeah,
doesn't work.
it doesn't work. So
I get it. Right.
okay.
So I was just
That's a
suggesting
great
the way that we
idea.
can start at the beginning with some interactivity. I mean, because we're doing facilitation conversations in the breakout rooms, it's generally more interactive than in the main room anyways. So I think giving tools to the facilitators is great, and I'm all for it, for them to incorporate what makes sense based on how they want to facilitate their session. But yeah, thanks.
Great idea, and maybe, and yeah, and we'll have to think about what it is that we would want to put there. But I'll happy to talk to others and bring it back to you.
So Tim, train the trainer, is that going to be a mandatory requirement to train? Or is that just something extra you're offering trainers
Well,
as a gentle suggestion? I think you're going to get that question.
yeah, I think that's probably correct, that I will get the question. I've give me a, what do you think?
What do
And I'm asking all of you.
Sometimes it's hard to get trainers, right? So if we give them another layer of one more thing they have to do before they can train, that might make it harder still. But then some people like getting the training. So I have no opinion.
The only thing is, I think, is that we should publicize it more, even if it's not totally required. Because I didn't take any in such classes either, but I probably would have if given the chance. So that's what I think.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Maybe what we do is train the trainer on Zoom, record it, and then just ask people, if you're going to be a trainer, attend this, watch this. Will they do it? Probably.
So like kind of do it like a webinar as a resource for them
Yeah,
to.
so we would do it, we would just do it like, we'll put it all together and then do it like a webinar, just like we did TLI sessions and everything else. And then post it on the District 4 YouTube channel. And then just ask people who didn't attend the training to please go watch it. I think if we make it, short enough, we'd probably be okay.
Yep, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other ideas around that?
Okay, I have something about the agenda. You know those handouts that we give for each officer?
Yes.
How about if we make that in calendar format? So when they get the agenda, they'll know what they need to do and when. Because the way it is now, the agendas aren't designed that way. It just tells certain things, but without the due dates, and what they should do and when they should do it. And then it would be different for each officer.
I'll look at it. I mean, I think the purpose of Club Off, if there is a due date, now certainly with treasurers, yeah, letting them know when renewals are due is a great idea. What are the other due dates? We put all of the incentives on the group handout, so that shouldn't be an issue. And I think the next thing, so I'm not sure what dates you think need to be there, Greg.
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
just
good
trying to understand, but I'll look at it regardless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
It would probably make the forms longer, but it might be worth it for them to
Well,
have.
I think we need to see how many dates are necessarily going to be there. I don't recall that most of those things have dates or need dates, unless speech contests, maybe. I mean, yeah, you have to have your club contest in February, area contest March, division in April, and the district conference.
I think
So on which forms would that be listed for which officers?
Who runs the speech contest, Greg?
The sergeant at arms?
No. The vice
No.
president of education
Well, that
is
too.
supposed to run the club contest.
Okay.
I think Greg is talking about maybe in the first round of training, we have so many incentives. Those dates are important.
Sure, and the dates are on the group handout for all of that.
Yeah, and I think for this round, it's not, the dates are not
There's
that
not
important.
much, yeah.
Most of the
You've
incentives.
got March Madness, you've got President's Club. There might be one other, I'm just trying to remember. I mean, we have Early Achievers in October, but that'll be done before the next season of training. So those are the only ones I have, and I'm trying to think of what the club growth ones are, which is, I think, March Madness and
There's open house if you want to have open house.
yeah,
January, February.
open house, March Madness, and President's Club, period.
Yeah, you might want to take a look on the club officer calendar that we already have at d4tm.org. There's a calendar there.
It's not for club officers, that's for, it's for everything.
Oh, I'm thinking of something else then.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a calendar there for, it's each month is separate.
Got it. Okay, I'll look at that. You're talking about it's just a list of when everything is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Mhm.
take a look at that too. That's, yeah, got it. Okay. As far as the training documents themselves, other than Greg's suggestions, is there anything that we think we might need to modify? Or would you like me just to send them to you and then you can look at them? And
I already have them actually.
yeah, I'm sure we all
Unless
do.
unless they're
Have it-
updated though.
If there's anything you need, just let me know. You know, you do have them, and I'll be looking at them too, see if there's anything I think we need to change. All right.
Alex and I came up with something middle of the year. There, you'll have an email trail on it. Just maybe rewording or adding a bullet to the VP, I believe it was VP membership, about responsibility for following up with guest visits,
Yeah,
because it wasn't clearly articulated on the
great.
form as it was.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
have
only
no
thing
problem putting that in.
I mean, just because that starts to have the conversation.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Besides that, I probably need to take another look myself.
Well, yeah. Any closing thoughts by anybody? Because we're out of time. I just realized that. Sorry.
How long do you think we should stay in touch with the trainees after the training session? Should it be something that goes every so often for the rest of the year? And usually it tapers off. The trainer might send out one thank you email with a few follow-up resources, and then it tapers off. I've noticed that that's how it happens. So.
I think that's if you're in contact with people you trained in the first season, that's perfectly okay. Just realize that some of them may no longer be in that role if they're a semi-annual club.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, I think that's up to you. I certainly, every time I do training, I send out some different resources for people to take a look at. And the reason that I do that, I think it's really important to do, is to kind of help develop that connection. Now, I don't really do a ton after that, but, you know, I mean, I do answer people, hey, thanks for this. It's really helpful. Or if they don't think it's helpful, that's okay too. You know, I don't really, you know, but having that one interaction a lot of times it's been my experience is then it, you know, they aren't afraid to email you if there's something else they need or if they have a question.
Mm.
And I think that's part of the learning that I've learned. So when you, I know there's a couple of reasons that I believe we did so well with some of the training is that I sent 3 emails to every club officer, I believe. And I said, you've trained this many, you have this many left. And then I would remove clubs that hit Lucky 7 at the same time. So we didn't duplicate the wheel there. Well, we're already done. What are you talking about? And then, you know, that follow up and follow through, I think is really helpful to getting people to their goals, because some clubs don't realize, hey, we've trained 5 or 6, 1 or 2 more, and we can get $75 in district credit or gift certificates. So, Mark?
Sorry, you just spurred me to a spurious thought that we don't encourage. Maybe we do want to encourage. In Zoom times, we may want to encourage club credit a little more, or district credit a little more for physical Toastmasters branded goods to be on camera, just to reinforce the Toastmasters brand in the clubs. It's helpful to have that stuff out there.
Sure.
So
where would we put that? Would it be like in the introduction? You'd show some of the things that you can get?
I'll have my Toastmasters mug of coffee, or yeah, or
My water bottle that says Toastmasters. Yay.
Exactly, something like that. I mean, I think that we need to reinforce the use of the Toastmasters brand among our clubs on Zoom,
So
because
then maybe
a lot of clubs aren't, is
maybe
my
we can
observation.
send out a link to the shop on the Toastmasters website with the request.
That's actually, thanks, Greg. That's a great idea. That's not exactly what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is reinforce it somehow in the materials, so that, like, for example, on the agenda, consider adding something on the topic.
Yeah. And you send that out first then, before the training.
Yeah, I did send the agenda to all the attendees before the training.
That sounds like a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for the feedback. I really appreciate it. Any parting thoughts before we go? Because we're a little over.
Nope, just good luck.
Yes,
And well done, everybody. It was a great club officer training season.
Yeah.
Great
it
job.
was.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was.
I do think maybe we, at our next ops meeting, we should figure out what training we're going to take, when our training dates are going to be, so it's already out there.
That's a really good idea. I'll make sure I put that into the top 4.
Because I'm just thinking, you know, October we're going to meet, and
Yeah,
then the season starts, right?
yeah.
No.
Good
Okay.
idea.
Might
So I'll
already.
make sure that I put that on our discussion for tomorrow. So, all right.
So what were you going to say, Alex?
No, I was just saying, yeah, we should put out early dates at least sometime soon, because November is literally like 4 weeks from now.
I know.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't remind me. So also off topic, I'd love to know, aside, if you got any feedback from your area directors about the visit reports, but let's not use that time. If you do have some feedback, please do send it my way via email or call me privately, okay?
I can tell you that we thought that it was really great, and I hope that you all consider recreating that, recording it, and then we'll put it up on the district website, on the D4TM, because we thought that was really well done. So kudos to all of you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. I'm on board with that. And in fact, we can record with our own Zoom. We can record our own. If you want to record your own piece and mail it to me, I'll stitch them all together.
Nice.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good? All right.
We can do that. Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
All
Yeah.
right.
Good night.
Thanks, Tim. Bye, all.
Everybody, good night.
Good night.